four, three, two, one, zero.
All right. Good morning, guys. Ready for you guys seem very chipper today. You seem very chipper. You guys are ready to rock and roll. All right. So, welcome to All About Abandonment. I think you're going to like this class. You're going to like this class. You're definitely going to learn something from it. This is also live streaming on YouTube. So my friends out there, they're going to watch this now or later on YouTube. If I get a question that's asked in the Zoom chat setting, I'll make sure I repeat it. All right. All right. So make sure that if you want to ask a question, you want to give feedback, do me a favor. Make sure you change your chat settings to say everyone. If you do not, nobody can, let me move this mic up a little bit. Nobody can see your chat settings unless you change it to everyone. So Christopher, your comment right there did not go to everyone. And Kevin from Idaho, do me a favor, update chat settings and a few others, right? But make sure everybody can see it. All right, cool. Thanks, Chris. All right, perfect. Thanks, Kevin. What's up, Sean? All right, so there you go. Let me introduce myself. Also, a couple ground rules. I want you to know that I cannot see you and I cannot hear you. Right? So if you're having that mimosa, right? I can't see it, right? But you can only see or hear me. The way we communicate on these webinars is through the chat. The chats are always off the hook. You guys do a great job with the chat. You guys are, sharing ideas. You're saying hello to your fellow peeps. You're sharing where you guys are from and so forth. What's up, John? All right, nice to have you here. All right, so a quick introduction about myself. My name is, okay, cool. And so if you have a question on YouTube, we can relate over here. All right. So my name is Anthony Bandiero. I'm an attorney and senior legal instructor for Blue to Gold Law Enforcement Training. I like to say that this is what I do for a living. I have the honor and the privilege to train cops all around the nation in search and seizure and various legal topics. I have a dream job. Last week, myself and Mike Boone, a brand new instructor out of Las Vegas, we were in Maumee, Ohio. That's just out of Toledo. What a great class. If you were at that class, let me know. But that was a fantastic class. Great students, great cops, working hard in the great state of Ohio, right? And Mike did a great job in that class. I travel a lot. But I want you to know that my travel, about 40 weeks per year, would not be possible if it wasn't for my neighbor. He's a firefighter, and he came up to me and says, Anthony, I know you travel a lot, but don't worry. I'll take care of the family. I said, man, that's why we love firefighters, right? All right. So as far as my background, I was a trooper sergeant in Las Vegas, spent most of my time in Las Vegas. I moved to a smaller town in Elko, Nevada before I retired early, went to law school. And hey, John, at least you know I live in a nice neighborhood, right? And then I went to law school. I'm actually broadcasting from Spokane, Washington. So if you are from Washington, or I know we got some Idaho people here. And so that's where I'm broadcasting from today. I got back yesterday from Ohio. The book. Hey, let me give you a shout out for the book, right? Let me give you a shout out for the. Hopefully, if you have not purchased this book, consider it. It was written for you. It's like in its 6th edition. There's various states. I think we have 16 states now. But this book is written for busy police officers who need to get it right. You need to know the law. And, I just spoke to an officer, my friend Zachy, one of our newest instructors. What's up, Zachy? Out of Ohio. Zachy was actually visited me in that class. So you got to get it right. I had an officer who I'm not going to tell you where he was from. but he chased somebody for a misdemeanor a couple nights ago into their home, and it was just a car stop. It was a passenger who fled and went into the home, and he says, "Look," he says, "I'm getting a lot of crap. I'm getting a lot of crap from my command, my captain and my chief are saying that I violated the law." It's like, Anthony, did I violate the law? And I'm like, so is this like just a simple misdemeanor? He's like, yeah, but they ran from the car into the house. Zachy, what do you think? Do you think we have a problem there? What case is that? Come on, impress me. My latest instructor. There we go. Lang versus California. And look, the Lang has been out since June of 2021. I mean, it's not an old case, but it's certainly been around for a few months. And, I had to break the news. I'm like, yeah, you kind of messed up, even though pre-Lang, I would have been like, yeah, I think you were righteous. So the point is we got to get it right. Here's what's going on. Matthew says PA. So here's where we're at. Illinois is done. We're formatting it right now for the publisher. Illinois is done. You're going to see Illinois on, hopefully, hey, Rick, hopefully we can have Illinois formatted by today so we can get that up, okay? New Mexico is next. So hopefully I'm going to have New Mexico done by next week. And Pennsylvania is after that. So hopefully we're going to get that now. But I want you to know that, look, I only work on the states, the hard states first, okay? I work on the hard states first. North Dakota, South Dakota, Tennessee, those are not hard states. So you need this book, right? Just Minnesota is going to come out too. So, but don't look, Rick, I'm ruining the sales because now people are going to wait for their state. You're going to be waiting a long time if you're looking for a state like, sorry, but North Dakota, South Dakota, even Iowa is going to be a while because it's a Fourth Amendment state for the most part. Thank you. Can I get an amen, Gerald? Can I get an amen? Disclaimers, laws and agency SOPs may be more restrictive. Look, I'm going to teach you the national standard here, but just recognize that some states are more restrictive. We're going to talk about trash pulls today. That's a great example. Trash pulls in some states are more restrictive, right? If you have any doubts about the legality of your actions, push to the chain. And finally, this course is legal education, not legal advice. All right. Certificate, you will get a certificate for the class. It will be sent to you to your email. If you're logged in, we know who you are. If you're shoulder surfing, okay? If you are shoulder surfing and you want a certificate, right? You're not logged into Zoom. Richard just put the email there. If you're shoulder surfing, email your name, your agency, and your email, which we'll probably have, but it's nice to just put it back, to type it in there so that we don't have to cut and paste from the header. Name, agency, and email, and what class you attended, just because we have these every week. All right. That's awesome. That's awesome, Matthew. All right. Let's see who is here. Let's make sure that we follow the instructions. Okay, this is a test. This is the only test in the whole class. Number one, update your chat settings to everyone. If you do not, nobody can see it. Justin, my friend, nobody saw that. Rich, my friend, nobody saw that. So hold on. Just update your chat settings, but don't send it. Okay? Type your agency and state, but don't send it. Very easy test. Don't send it. Okay? Show some pride for your agency. Okay? 3, 2, 1, send it. I wish the YouTubers can see this. All right. Yeah, we got a lot of people here. I mean, we got, of course, California. We got Wisconsin, Kansas, LA Sheriff's Department is here. A lot of Californians, Colorado, Kansas, Iowa, Pennsylvania, Indiana, Tennessee, Texas, Illinois, Wyoming, Florida. I'm looking for new ones. Nevada, more Wyoming, South Carolina, North Dakota, New Mexico, Minnesota. See if anybody knew. Ohio, of course, Utah, Florida. I think I said Oklahoma, New York, Arkansas, Nebraska, Iowa, know if I said that one. Mississippi, Maryland. Who else is here? Okay, I think Indiana. Pennsylvania, of course. Virginia, that's a new one. Idaho, and so forth. So guys, somebody says Maryland is the best, worst state ever. All right. Awesome. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about abandonment. We're going to talk about some trash pulls, takeaways. I think we'll be here for about an hour, okay, or so. If you have questions, I want you to ask them. All right. The first thing I want to talk to you is about abandonment. Now, the Fourth Amendment does not protect abandoned property. So if you search abandoned property, well, it would not be a search under the Fourth Amendment, because the term search is a legal term that means that you are implicating a person's legitimate expectation of privacy, or there's a trespass search out there. But you have to have something, a viable claim under the Fourth Amendment. If you do not, then you have no search under the Fourth Amendment. Now, abandonment is not meant in the strict property rights sense, but rests instead on whether the person so relinquished his interest in the property that he no longer retained a reasonable expectation of privacy in it at the time of search. What we are saying here is this: even if you know 100% that the person owns the piece of property, let's say the backpack, they can still abandon it. Okay? People can abandon. The only thing that people cannot abandon is their kids. Okay? Up until 18. So, but they can abandon anything else. All right? Even if you know they own it. Let me give you a funny example. A dog sniffed a piece of luggage at the airport. Okay? Malcolm, the answer is yes. You can abandon that. Okay? But you didn't hear that from me. And you sound like you're begging for trouble. You're begging for trouble, right? So you got that right, John. All right. A happy wife is a happy life. So the dog sniffed a piece of luggage at the airport, behind the scenes type stuff. And the dog alerted. So the cop was watching who was going to recover this piece of luggage on the carousel. And this guy picked it up and he started carrying it out of the airport. Well, the cop made contact, consensual encounter, say, "Hey, sir, can I talk to you?" And, this and that. And the cop says, "Hey, I work narcotics, and, we're concerned about narcotics in the airport. And can I, is this piece of luggage, can I search it?" Well, the cop said, the guy says, "Oh," he looks down at the luggage and says, "Oh, this is not my luggage." He says, "I picked up the wrong luggage." And the cop looks at the luggage tag and it has the name on it that the guy gave, right? And the cop says, "Well, it's kind of weird. Like you don't, this is not your luggage." And he says, "Your name is on it." And he says, "You know what? Must be a coincidence. This is not my luggage." Now the cop knows it's his luggage. Okay. The name is on it and so forth. So the cop searches it, finds narcotics, ends up arresting him and so forth. Did the guy abandon his luggage? And the answer is yes, even though the cop knows he owns it. So people can abandon their property even though you know. Now, you have the burden to prove how and why the suspect abandoned the item. Okay? That's your burden. So the suspect has the burden to prove he had a reasonable expectation of privacy at the time of search. So, so Gerald says I got that one right. So you prove abandonment, he or she proves privacy interest. Does that make sense? And then we'll sort it out at court. So if the court finds that the suspect did have a privacy interest, then the next question is despite that, that's called standing, right? Despite that standing, did they actually still abandon it? Now, Cops can also articulate facts or circumstances that they learn after the search to help prove that the suspect intentionally abandoned the property. So things that they say afterwards, during an interview, they confirm, yep, that's not my, hey, when you find the drugs and you find IDs in there, like of the suspect, hey, I'm telling you, I don't know how my ID got in there, but it's not my stuff, right? That can help prove the mentality at the time of the search. Now, words, this is in New Mexico, but words and action can help prove abandonment. The reason I put in New Mexico is I was using this slide for a class there, but in New Mexico, their burden is higher. You have to prove clearly that the person abandoned. You can't have like wishy-washy abandonment in New Mexico, but in other states, it's just a totality of circumstances. But anywhere, you can dropping things, throwing things out the window, leaving items in a public place, repeated disclaimers of ownership, all help prove abandonment. Now, I like to say that there's kind of like 3 types of abandonment, right? Things that kind of come up in cases. One is what I refer to as purposeful abandonment. Now, the courts do not use these exact phrases. This is what I teach, but there's a lot of benefits from conceptualizing it this way. Purposeful abandonment is when the person does something or says something that makes it very clear they want nothing to do with the item. And if they do that, what type of search can you do? Have at it. Go hog wild. Do whatever you want. You don't need a search warrant. Now, certainly, even with purposeful abandonment, there may be a time and a place to get a search warrant. But do you need one? The answer is not necessarily. Number 2, this is what I call inadvertent abandonment. This is when a criminal will actually leave their property at a crime scene. Now, it's inadvertent because they did not mean to. They did not mean to, let's say they got spooked, they're burglarizing a house, and they hear the homeowner coming home, and they jump out the back window and flee. And they leave their wallet, their phone pops out of their pocket, they leave a backpack, and the cops find it in the bushes and so forth. Did they really mean to purposely abandon it? The answer is no. But is it abandoned? It is, because a person who commits a crime on somebody's property and then inadvertently leaves property behind should not expect privacy. That's the thinking here, right? However, I want you to be kind of careful with these. Gerald, I don't like to do hog wild searches on inadvertent abandonment. I don't like it. I think it pushes things to the limit. Instead, what I would do is just search it like the public could, right? The public is not going to be doing DNA testing. They're not going to do forensic analysis on cell phones. They're going to open up backpacks and wallets, and they're going to do all that kind of stuff. But they're going to turn on phones. But I'll just be kind of careful with this one. Now, you may also have exigency in some of these cases, and I'll talk to you about that. And, and then finally, you have lost property. Lost property is not abandoned property. Lost property is when a person leaves something behind, and it's fair to say that they're looking for it. Now, inadvertent abandonment and lost property look the same in many circumstances. So, for example, if I go into a 7-Eleven, hold it up at gunpoint, and leave my wallet behind, that is inadvertent abandonment. I probably did not mean to leave my wallet. But I still don't have privacy expectation. But if I go to that same 7-Eleven and I'm a customer and I accidentally, inadvertently leave my wallet behind, that's not abandoned. It's lost. What kind of search can you do on lost property? Inventory and search for owners, right? Now, remember though, if a person reclaims an interest in the property, the abandonment ends. If they say, hey, that's my phone, stay out of it. Or you find a phone at a crime scene and a text message pops up, hey, I lost my phone, can you please return it? Or a call comes in. Just so you know, the abandonment has ended. You may have another reason to search it. Maybe you have exigency. Maybe this person just committed a violent crime and you're trying to find out who this is. Maybe if the phone's unlocked, you can look at Facebook to see who the owner is. But if they call you or they say something to indicate that they want that phone back, the abandonment has ended. All right. So somebody asked, what about the things people seem to abandon but not distance themselves from these? No, these aren't my pants, etc. So that's a good, I mean, that's a fair argument. I think, you know, I wouldn't really look at it necessarily as abandonment. They could, I mean, it could, but I think the better argument is that they're trying to say that they didn't have any knowledge, right? So there are, in order to prove possession of a narcotic, you need to have possession, which they have, it's in their pocket. You have to have a controlled substance, that's easy, you know, you can field test it. But I think what these people, the legal argument comes in is that they did not know, right? Because they borrowed somebody's pants, they did not know. But I don't usually see abandonment being used on those cases. All right, let's watch this.
Traffic's pretty light at this point. They just threw a 135 out to London South at mile marker 190. Yeah, 10-4, go ahead. Yeah, he just tossed his cell phone back there.
All right, let's talk about that real quick, okay? So the point of that is, you know, what kind of search can you do, right, about the stuff coming out of the stuff coming out of his car, right? What kind of search can you do? Do you see that he actually threw a cell phone out? Right? Yep. And I like what people are saying, full search. You can go hog wild on the whole operation, okay? You can do whatever you can, a hog wild search, okay? I don't care if you're doing forensics, lab test kits, whatever you want to do. Now, should you get a search warrant for the cell phone? Absolutely, you should. Do you need it under the current case law? The answer is no. Now, this video also ends with them crashing and, well, I shouldn't say crashing. They stop because the tires are gone and they flee the vehicle while leaving the doors open. Now, there's also an argument that they abandoned the vehicle, especially when they flee and they leave the doors open. But Anthony, whoa, time out. Why do we need abandonment to search that vehicle? You don't in this case, right? You don't in this case. You have probable cause for the vehicle. You have the motor vehicle exception. But it always is nice to have another reason to search vehicles, okay? All right, let's watch one more video. He made his mother so proud on that one, you know? I mean, look, hey, our son's on TV, you know? So he's going to be like a commercial, like they're going to get the soul softener guy, you know? But the legal questions I have for you Um, um, were the bags abandoned, right? Did he abandon the bags by saying that they were not his? Y or N? Once you can save a couple keystrokes. Y or N? Okay, the answer is yes. But I'm going to teach you a better way of doing that, right? Some of you guys remember what I taught you in class. But now, is there an argument that he's reclaiming his interest while in the back of the police car, right? Is there an interest that he's reclaiming is there an argument that he's reclaiming his interest? And I see some yeses in the chat. Okay, and the answer is yes. Yes. There's at least, look, there's an argument. There's an argument because then he's starting to clarify that he found it. And you know how the saying goes, one man's trash is another man's treasure. So, yeah. So here's the deal. The cops are going to still be okay. I just want you to know that, you know, if you're going down the abandonment route and they abandoned it, you probably should finish the search, the abandonment. You know, again, I use the word search. It's not a Fourth Amendment search, but you should probably finish the search and then speak to him about what you found. Because if during that conversation they reclaim their interest and like, yeah, well, look, I did find it. It is my bag, you know, then the abandonment search ends. And you would have to have another reason to get into the bag. Maybe you have it, maybe you don't. Now, the one thing about this, though, is that ultimately the cops are going to find that he stole those bags. So even if, let's say, like, even if the court finds, the court finds that he never abandoned the backpack, but then the court finds that originally he stole it. Will he have any interest in the bag to begin with? Right? Okay. So no. Right, because he doesn't have what's called what? He's missing what? What's that word? You have to have this before you can even have, well, it's not, yeah, it's standing. It's standing. Actually, but by the way, though, just to be kind of fair to everybody, REP is actually technically more of an accurate answer because standing is a lack of reasonable expectation of privacy. Standing is the result of no REP. Does that make sense? That's for another day. That's complicated. I would take REP on the board, you know, or I'll take standing. They both work. All right. A cop walked into a bar. This guy who he kind of knew was a drug dealer took a pack of smokes out of his pocket and threw it on the ground. The cop picked it up. He opened it, found narcotics, arrested that guy, and you know that we are good. The cigarette package and the substances which were found inside resulted from the retrieval of abandoned property. When the package was dropped on the floor, it must be considered to have been abandoned because the package was clearly abandoned by the appellant, right? The guy who threw it. Accordingly, the motion to suppress was properly denied. No problem, Kevin. Suspect was seen pushing a broken down car into a parking lot, into a motel parking lot. Ryan actually, okay, let me pause here for a second for the YouTube guys too. Ryan says, you know, you got to articulate that he threw it, not just simply dropping it. I agree. I agree that, look, you can also drop something and, you know, potentially abandon it. But I like where you're going with this because if he accidentally dropped it, that could be lost property. But if he crushes it and just drops it and not even throws it, that would be abandoned. That's, you know, or puts it under a shoe or something like that. But definitely Ryan is on to something here. Lost versus abandoned. Yep. And Justin says, prove he didn't want it. I love it. Excellent. So this guy pushes this broken down car into a parking lot, a motel. He does not stay at the motel. He then is seen getting into another car, and he leaves the car there for 6 days. Now this car is associated with a kidnapping situation. The cops then search the car. They find evidence of the kidnapping. Well, in the instant case, we conclude that there is sufficient evidence of abandonment, i.e., right, that is to say that the appellant intended to abandon the car and his decision to abandon it was not due to police misconduct. Accordingly, the motion to suppress was properly denied. Okay, let's look at this.
No, is that cool? Him too. Put it out. Get it out. Oh! What? Okay. Okay. Money in the bag. I touch it open. I touch it open.
Faster. More. Under.
What? Where?
Under the thing. Under.
Where? Here?
All the way. Give me a card in Newport.
Where? In Newport? Okay.
Yeah.
There's Newports, and there's Cody, who took down his mask, no gloves, and left his wallet behind. I mean, Cody looks a little dumb to me anyway. He's just that dumb look on his face. But the point is, let's go through the law, right? Was the wallet abandoned? And right, yes, and Chris is clarifying what kind of abandonment this is. This is known, right, as inadvertent abandonment. Now, this is what I call it. This is what Blue to Gold calls it, right? But there's some value in separating this out. This is not purposeful abandonment. What type of search can you do? Look, the public, what can the public do? They pretty much can search the whole damn wallet. So you're good there, right? You're good there. I wish this was a cell phone case, okay? Because not a case of a cell phone, but a cell phone. And I think that the conversation would be a little better, right? If you have a cell phone, I don't recommend that you search cell phones under abandonment personally. But could you search it under exigency, right? And the answer is yes, because they just committed an armed robbery, highly violent crime. Exactly, Brandon. Extremely violent crime. And there's an interest in, a public safety interest in getting these people in custody as soon as possible. So just so you know, if you dial 911, like let's say emergency dial from the phone, it's locked, but you can still do a 911 call. That is a search under the Fourth Amendment. But if it's within a short time period of the crime, you can do it, right? Realize that it is a search, but it is realize it's a search, but it's going to be lawful under either abandonment or most better is exigency. Yep, exactly. George says you can go through it to find out the info on the phone, telephone number, ISN, etc. Under abandonment or exigency, or are you talking about like an inventory? Well, I gotta caution you on that one. I gotta caution. We don't use inventory searches when we have probable cause for that same item. Okay, I just want to let you know that you should not conflate, or you should not commingle inventories and searches for evidence. If you're looking for evidence in a car, a backpack, a phone, you should never use an inventory to recover that evidence. You should use the regular rules of the Fourth Amendment, criminal rules. That means probable cause for vehicles, the motor vehicle exception, exigency, consent, abandonment. Does that make sense? Don't, so if you don't have anything else, don't use inventory. That's my point there. Okay. And then Justin, if you have something, do you want me to clarify? Please let me, George or Justin, did I explain that properly? So, right, George is definitely in agreement, and it was basically saying, but I was just saying, wouldn't you have the ability to get the phone info based on either? Yes, but make sure that, because in this case, I would not allow officers, if I was on scene, to recover that evidence when we also want that same under inventory, when we want to use that evidence in the crime, so we don't use inventory. Again, we just don't use inventories to recover evidence. We use something else, the regular rules. Okay. He's talking about using 911 to get the number. So if you, I guess, make sure and I can turn on your mic too, Justin, if you want, right? To make sure we're talking about the same thing here. But if you call 911 from a person's cell phone, right, under the emergency contacts or whatever, that is a search under the Fourth Amendment. So you would need an exception to the warrant requirement. Here is a case. Here is a case for there was actually a shootout between six suspects and some security guards. One of the suspects left his cell phone on top of the car, and the cops downloaded that phone 16 hours later without a warrant. Does that sound like good practice to you? Right? I mean, come on. This is a massive case here. Massive case. Violent crime. And when I was reading this case, I got to tell you that I was a little worried how this one's going to come out. The court upheld it. And quite frankly, maybe because they felt compelled, because it's like, if they lose the phone, they lose all the text messages between everybody. And, but man, look, this is what they said. We conclude that appellant had not shown that he had a reasonable expectation of privacy in the cellular telephone that was abandoned and left on top of the Dodge Stratus. And therefore, appellant lacks standing to complain of the reasonableness of the search of the contents of the cell phone. But talk about, look, I am happy for the cop. I'm happy that we got the evidence inside. Look, the guy committed a very violent crime. I'm happy. But this is not best practice. Do not warrantly search cell phones unless you have some kind of exigency, emergency, urgency. So this guy was detained in the back of a police car, and he was ultimately released. As he's walking away, the cop sees a wallet on the back seat. The cop opens up the wallet and sees that the guy's ID is in there. But instead of giving it back to him, because he's like walking away, he looks inside a small pocket and finds methamphetamine. Well, is that wallet lost or abandoned? Right. It's lost. Exactly. Although the police could search a lost or mislaid purse or wallet for identification purposes only, the search had to end once identification was found. The record discloses that Morris did not abandon his expectation of privacy. Rather, the wallet was mislaid or lost. Once the deputies searched the wallet without a warrant, the Fourth Amendment rights were implicated. So, guys, pro tip for you, okay? Write this down. I got a pro tip. Do not establish abandonment by the very common question, is this yours, right? That is not the best way to do business. I mean, if you are holding on to somebody else's property and a cop comes up to you and says, hey, is that yours? The most accurate answer may be no. I mean, because you don't consider it yours, but you are lawfully possessing it. But if the cop says, do you have anything to do with that purse? backpack, right? Suitcase. And the person's, and the person says, no, I do not. That is a clean case of abandonment. Are we on the same page here, right? Please, please, please ask this. Do not ask simply, is it yours? It's not the best form of abandonment. They can come back and win that case that they did not abandon it if they actually did not own the container, but were just holding it on for somebody else, right? Because they're answering your question literally. No, it is not mine, but I am in a lawful possession of it. All right? All right. Here's another pro tip. Do you know that it's possible to get actually consent from somebody to search an abandoned piece of property? I saw this case and I was like blown away because it really, I get it, but it's kind of interesting, right? So in here, the cop says, oh, hey, is this yours, right? Again, I prefer, do you have anything to do with it? And the cop says, okay, if it isn't yours, then you wouldn't care if I searched it, right? And the guy says, I don't care. Do you know the court actually said that the guy gave consent to? And just consent for abandoned prop. So either one, it's like, even if it wasn't abandoned, he gave consent. Chris says, could we go further and ask if anything in the bag was theirs? Absolutely. Absolutely. You can do that. But I will tell you though, that if you ask, do you have anything to do with this? I think you should be okay, right? That's their opportunity to say, yeah, my stuff is in there. All right. Now, if abandonment occurs after unlawful police action, the abandonment is tainted and the evidence may be suppressed. So you have to have abandonment that is not the fruit of the poisonous tree, okay? Let me give you an example. The driver was stopped without reasonable suspicion or probable cause. As the driver got out of the vehicle, he dropped a loaded needle. That's going to be suppressed because even though the act of dropping, throwing, discarding on the ground is a sign of abandonment, the problem is he did it after he was unlawfully detained. Littering. We find no meaningful constitutional distinction between the situation where, because of police unlawfulness, the police search an individual and find contraband, and the situation where, because of police unlawfulness, the individual throws or drops an object to the ground and the police seize it. In both instances, the evidence is subject to being suppressed because it was the direct result of initial police misconduct, right? All right, so, that's the fruit of the poisonous tree. Yep. Is a tent illegally erected under a bridge known for homeless encampments abandoned when unoccupied? So just think about, and while you're answering it, Harmony says, what if the person says, yes, they do care if you search it, but they are not claiming ownership? Then we would still search under inadvertently search to find the owner. Probably, Harmony. If they're saying, I get what you're saying. They're like, well, yeah, I mean, look, it's not my bag, but you shouldn't be searching other people's stuff. I would search it. Is that what you're asking, Harmony? I would search it. I mean, that's kind of like, I think the message, like, oh, you shouldn't be into other people's stuff. That's not their problem. That's between them and the owner. Okay. Are the items left behind in a hotel room trash can abandoned after checkout? Okay, good. Are items apparently forgotten in a hotel room closet abandoned after checkout? Good. Excellent. Hey guys, before we move on to trash searches, and then we're going to end off strong, we're going to be a little over an hour here. Are you finding this information useful? Are you glad, are you guys glad you came? Because I'm hoping you guys are getting something out of this. Okay. All right, good. All right, good. I appreciate that. A lot of you guys have hosts and panel, like half of you guys have not set your chat settings to everyone, just so you know. What's RDM, John? So the other thing is, guys, we have online classes coming up. Oh, recommended daily, monthly. Oh, is that like, okay, I get it. Hey, we got some online classes coming up on next week. So I just want to kind of plug this real quick. Guys, if you like the way we train and you like our stuff, consider attending one of the classes. We have mastering search and seizure, advanced traffic stops, all this kind of stuff coming up next week. So nice, Gerald. All right. Nice. All right. So trash searches. Now, generally speaking, there are no privacy interests in trash. Now, that is not the case in New Mexico. That is not the case totally in New Jersey. You need a search warrant to search trash in New Jersey. Is it Iowa that also changed the rules on trash? I think it's Iowa, right? Recently just they now find that there's a privacy interest in trash. Somebody hooked me up for Iowa. Thanks, Paul. So that's not the case in every state, but the vast majority of states do not protect trash. So let's talk about some situations that come up. Number one, if the trash is on the sidewalk or the street, right? The can or the bag, it's usually abandoned, even if not on the pickup day. You guys with me on this, right? John, the answer is no, definitely not. I know this for a fact because California is a Fourth Amendment state when it comes to search and seizure. If all these rules here apply to California, 100%. So I'm glad you clarified that. So when the trash is like this, it is abandoned, even if not on pickup day. If they have that trash can, even if that's normally where it is, if they go outside their apartment or they go outside their home and the trash can is on a sidewalk and they put the bag in the canister, it's immediately abandoned, right? Defendants place their refuse at the curb for the express purpose of conveying it to a third party. The trash collector, who might himself have sorted through the defense trash or permitted others, such as the police, to do so, accordingly, having deposited their garbage in an area particularly suited for public inspection for the express purpose of having strangers take it. Okay. Yeah, and Brian says not in Iowa. Not in Iowa, not in New Mexico, not in New Jersey. You have to get warrants in those places. Okay, Chris, actually, you're not going to, Chris, for my YouTubers, Chris is asking, what about if it's at the end of a driveway? I'm going to be your huckleberry because that's what's next. So, ready? So we got trash on the public sidewalk. When is it abandoned? Immediately. On July 21st, 2005, Officer Canty of the York County Multi-Jurisdictional Drug Enforcement Unit conducted a narcotics investigation focused on the illegal drug activities occurring at that address. During the investigation, the trash from the residence was located in front of the residence. The trash was located off the property and sat out for normal pickup. This date, this date is the regularly scheduled date for the garbage collection from the residence. During the investigation, marijuana was recovered from the trash of the residence, right? Okay, so now Brandel, that's probably not directly the rule. Okay, let me just explain what the rule is. Okay, generally speaking, it's probably not that strict. It's a little bit more nuanced. So here, what do we do when the trash is on property or even harder, on curtilage? What do you do then? Okay, here's the rule. Number one is it's not abandoned. Okay, Sean, I know that's some states, not all states, but let's go through this. First of all, it's not abandoned until pickup time. So if they have a trash can in front of their garage on their driveway, and they put a bag of trash in the container, on Saturday morning, but trash does not get picked up until Wednesday, it's not abandoned yet. But we're not done yet. We're not done. This is more complicated. Next, courts like to know, is it visible from the street? Is the trash can visible from the street? They talk about that, okay? Versus hidden behind a wall or something. But here is the most important part. You ready for it? To me, okay? It's pickup time and where. So, where does the garbage company pick up the trash? Where do they pick it up from? My in-laws, for example, they have their trash cans on their curtilage in California, but the trash company goes onto their property and has for generations, and they remove the trash cans down to the street and dump it. Okay? So that is the question. What is the garbage company doing? Under the Fourth Amendment, the trash is abandoned under the conditions of the trash company. That's how they work. The problem, though, is that, you can't just go up to people's curtilage and just start taking trash out. You basically want the trash company to do it, right? You want the trash company to do it. So let them do it. Let them, work with them to get a clean truck. Let them do their job the way they normally do it during the time they normally do it. And then when they recover it, now it becomes abandoned. You guys with me on this? However, I see several people saying, go get a warrant. And I cannot agree more. Go, if it's on their curtilage, you should go get a warrant, because you don't want to turn into Iowa where they're getting Iowa is getting a lot more restrictive on inventory searches, on trash pulls. Do you see a message here? The message is they're pushing back on cops on some of the things that they're doing because they're going too far, it seems like. They're pushing the court's buttons. So let's answer some questions. Okay. If they don't have a pickup time and only call when they need their dumpster emptied, how does that change when they're on their property? Well, first of all, then it's not abandoned. I can give you 100% confidence that if that dumpster or trash can is on their curtilage, well, it doesn't matter if it's on their curtilage. It can be on their property too. If that dumpster is on their property and it's only abandoned when they call, it's not abandoned until they call. I'll tell you that right now. Yep, you're welcome. Okay, we're going to talk. Joseph is saying community dumpsters are open game every day. Usually, but I'm going to give you some factors on that too before we leave. Okay, it's best practice to have a collection company do the pickup on the person's property. You should not really be doing these pickups, because here's the deal. When you do it, the Fourth Amendment is implicated. But when the trash company is just doing their job, even if they're an agent, right? You're encouraging them to do it. You're asking them to do it. Go get the clean truck. It's just way easier for the courts to basically say, hey, look, did the trash company do their job on the route? Did they pick it up around the time they expected? It's kind of hard to beat that one. Okay. Tom's picked up trash near the side of the house on pickup day. Best practice? Well, probably not, but here's what the case said. Okay, and here's your case, the Segura case. Whether there was a reasonable expectation of privacy in the trash left side of the house residence near the garage is a closer question. It certainly is. The obvious distinction being that trash left near the curb is more exposed to the public than is trash left closer to the house. The defendant urges that the trash near the garage was within the curtilage of his home and therefore well within the protections of the Fourth Amendment. The district court here found that the trash was sufficiently exposed to the public to defeat a reasonable expectation of privacy because it was left in a location where the sanitation workers regularly would, on Wednesdays, remove it along with the trash left by the street. Indeed, nothing was done to prevent the removal of the garbage, and the garbage remained within public view. So that's my message for you. If the trash company would have picked it up from that location, that's how they normally do business. That's what the homeowners expect. Then you should be okay. Still silly question here. I am watching a house and want to search the trash. Can I wait until the trash man pulls it into the truck and then get consent to search the truck from the garbage man? Absolutely. Now, first of all, Gerald, what state are you in? Maryland. Maryland applies Fourth Amendment rules on trash searches. So the answer is yes, you can do that. The best worst state ever. Then you have to prove that when you pulled out was the garbage from the house, though, if not clean. Yes, you get those issues too. So look, what's my advice here? Okay, if you want to stay out of needless suppression hearings, you probably should have the garbage company do their job, and you should not be the one up there doing it. All right. Community trash cans. Now, it's abandoned unless it's closed to the public. Okay. So somebody asked about community trash cans. If it looks like this, okay. If it looks like this, abandoned. Okay. Definitely abandoned. The problem, though, is that some of these community trash cans have gates around have you seen that, right? Like a dumpster, right? A dumpster will have a closed gate around it, like a business or something. That one becomes more problematic. So if it's open and people can go around the side and put their trash in there, abandoned right from the moment of putting it in the trash can. This is no different than the guy living at the regular house having a trash can on the sidewalk. Okay? But if it's behind a locked fence, that's a different story. To begin with, this dumpster accommodated several apartments. Therefore, many people living in the building would conceivably have occasion to look into it and scavenge about in the collective heap. Secondly, all municipal pickups were made from this dumpster. Therefore, any tenant in the complex could be sure that periodically a group of third persons would look into the dumpster and possibly scavenge for property, right? Hold on a second. Okay. Now, what about this situation, right? What about that situation? Different, right? Different. This trash is not abandoned until the gate is opened either by the trash company because they have a key, or the business opens the gates to let them in. Okay? So here is a case. Here's what happened. A paint shop, right? Like an Earl Schreib's type of place, was allegedly dumping paint containers in their trash can against environmental law, right? Not disposing of the old paint cans appropriately. So they didn't want to pay the fees. So environmental cops surveilled the area, and they saw that somebody from the business dumped what they thought was paint cans that were not properly cleaned out or whatever, right? So they hop a fence later after the business closed. They hopped a fence, went over to the trash can, and found these paint containers that proved that they were in violation of environmental law. Are we good? Okay. And while you're answering that, Charlie says, what if there's signage that states residents or tenants only on the community trash can? Will that give them a reasonable expectation of privacy? And the answer is no, it will not. It will not, because it's still possible and reasonable to think that other people, tenants or residents, could search the trash. Also, the purpose of that is probably to say, nobody else can throw their trash in here besides residents. So the answer is no. Okay, let's see. Dominic says, if you ask the responsible party to open it, could it be an illegal search because they are doing under your order? Yes. If you order somebody to open up this area and you say, hey, look, I need to see in there, and they open it at your behest, yes. Not to say it's illegal. That's not the necessarily the answer, but the answer is that it is a search under the Fourth Amendment, and now you would need an exception. Consent, some kind of recognized exception like exigency. Maybe there's a law in the books that allows these searches, right? Regulatory inspections or a warrant. All right. You're welcome. Defendants, that's that paint shop, in the instant case took affirmative steps to protect his privacy interests in the dumpster. He installed gates at either end of the fence alley and kept them closed until the waste hauler arrived. In these circumstances, the judge was warranted in concluding that the defense demonstrated their subjective expectation of privacy in the contents of the dumpster, and that further, this expectation was one which society would accept as reasonable. Okay. Let's see what the question is. So I don't know, don't people that put trash in there assume it's locked? Oh, yeah, for the business? Or you're talking about for the community trash can? I mean, okay, so clarify that question. I mean, look, if you have to throw trash over a gate to get into the trash can, then you gotta be careful on that one. It's locked, and scavengers should not be there. Ryan says, so businesses consents to your search, opens the gate, property and dumpster still abandoned. Well, look, even if it's not abandoned, they consented to search, right? So if they consent to search and they open the gate, then that's consent. You probably don't have abandonment. You probably just have consent. And Gerald says, the lesson here is to never throw anything away. So Tristan says, if you are in an apartment complex and the residents put their trash in the hallway for pickup, and we have consent from the management to be there, could we rip the trash? Yes. The answer is yes. It's not on curtilage. It's not on their own property. It's in a common hallway. They're putting it, they're sending a signal, right, that they want that trash to be gone. That is abandonment. Major takeaways. Abandoned property is not protected. It is not a search under the Fourth Amendment. Number two, you have to articulate how and or why the suspect has no privacy interest. The throwing, I have nothing to do with it, right? And then ask, do you have anything to do with XYZ? Don't simply state that, or ask, is this yours? Probably better to say, do you have anything to do with this? Guys, that's what I got for you, my peeps, right? I hope you'll use your camera. Let's, connect on social media, the Facebook. And if you're not signed up to the YouTube or to our friggin' YouTube channel, please subscribe. Let me get it kind of over there. Just going to give you a quick. Our YouTube channel is growing strong. I hope you guys will consider. Yeah, let me just kind of show you real quick. So look, we got, over, how many videos are we up to? Over 250 videos approximately. You're welcome. Look, I answer all these questions on YouTube. I do them almost every day, right? So I call these roadside chats. So guys, if you have a question for me, here, Rick, do me a favor. Do you have the URL for the asking questions? Guys, if you have questions for me or my team, for the great Ann Kelleher, we got Zachy coming on board. We got Michael Boone, who's our new instructor. We also we're going to be working with John and some other Marshall for some leadership training. Guys, we're excited. We got so much good stuff coming to you, right? Kevin, We do visit Alabama. I was actually just in Orange Beach, Alabama recently, right? Thank you, Gerald. I appreciate that, man. That's awesome. Are you subscribed to the YouTube channel? Right? Good. So guys, subscribe to YouTube. It makes us, really, lets us know that we're doing a good job out here. And that's all I got. Yeah, no, Orange Beach was a lot of fun. Yeah, actually, we're going to Mississippi. Hey, Rick, why don't you we're going to Mississippi like within a few weeks, right? Awesome. Yes, Robert, I will be at the Henderson class in April. That's my class. Oh, man, Steve, nothing but love on that. Here, hold on. I got you. Yeah, if you can send like a patch or something or a challenge coin, that really makes our day because we do collect those for the office. I'm putting the address in right now. Boom. Thanks, Gerald. There's the address. Man, thanks, Steve. Made my day. That's awesome. Michael, we have it online. Do you want the online class? Right? Okay. Justin wants to come on. You want the mic? Okay, hold on. Coming. All right. You're on the love line with Dr. Bandiero.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Good, brother.
Hey, I just had a quick question about the cell phone. So let's say you find a cell phone in the back of your car and you want to find out who the owner is or whatever, or well, actually probably not in the back of your car, but you were saying that you need a search in order to use the 911 function.
Well, it is a search. It's just to recognize that it is a search. Whether or not it's a bad search is not, we have to cross that bridge. That's the next question, right? I'm just recognizing that it is a search.
Okay, that's just kind of weird because I look at it as it's just a normal function because it can be used without having to unlock the phone, and you're not really any apps. You're not looking into text messages, previous calls, or anything like that. And the other thing that comes up is if you really wanted to find out who the owner is, the IMEI number would be best and go to the provider, which would give you name, address, bill history, and stuff like that. But what if somebody stole the phone from somebody else, but then somehow they dropped it or lost it? You know what I mean? So you still can't really prove whose it is without having to find out, was the phone stolen from the actual owner, and checking with the provider to see, who is the last registered owner of the phone.
All right. So here's the deal. So there are two searches under the Fourth Amendment. There is a privacy search and there's a trespass search. You are absolutely correct. And I think this is where your brain's working, is that, you don't really see like an invasion of privacy by just simply dialing a 911 to see what the phone number is. However, okay, I'll give you that one, right? Let's just say that it's not a privacy search, but you also have another search under a case called U.S. versus Jones, 2009, U.S. Supreme Court, where they said that basically touching or manipulating a person's property with the intent to gather information is a search under the Fourth Amendment. And I just gave you a case right there. Actually, this case is named Jones too, but it's a different Jones, right? Okay. So what they're saying here is that you're trying to get information that is not readily apparent. Even if they don't have a privacy interest, it's still manipulating their items. So it is a search, but you can do it under a lot of these cases. Look, if you found a cell phone, do it. Go look, get the phone number, try to get IMEI, whatever, IMEI, right? Try to get that information. Yeah, exactly. IMEI. Try to get that information because what you're doing is a community caretaking function. You're trying to return people's property. Does that make sense? Yes. But Just recognize though, that is a search. Now look, if you are searching that phone as if it's evidence, if it's not like a lost phone in the back of your car, it's not left at the counter at Walmart, but you are like, look, this is a murder suspect's phone, or this is a kidnapper suspect's phone, or armed robbery, and they left that phone at a crime scene, you should not be searching people's property under caretaking, because the rules are different. You're looking for evidence. I mean, if I got you on the stand, I'm like, why are you dialing this person's cell phone, right, for 911? And you're probably going to say, I'm like, do you want to return it to him or her? And you're like, no, I want to know who this is so I can charge this person and go after them. That's evidence collection. Do it under not inventory, not community caretaking. Do it under exigency. You got to get this person in custody. That's what I would do.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome, brother. Anybody else have any questions? Thanks, Darren. When it comes to officer safety, does the public by law have to comply? The answer is that the public has to comply with lawful orders. Well, actually, I got to back up on that. The public has to comply, quite frankly, with all orders, lawful or otherwise. But let me just kind of clarify what I mean here. If the cop gives a lawful order and the person does not comply, that is going to be a crime in the vast majority of states. I can't think of one that is not a crime, but I'm sure there could be some exceptions. If a cop gives an unlawful order, right? Let's say that somebody's engaged in First Amendment speech, and and the guy has a sign, in the park, and the cop says, "Hey, that sign is a danger, is an officer safety issue to us or whatever around let's say we're doing some enforcement action." And the cop says, put that sign down or whatever, but it's like freedom of speech. Like the court would not buy off that it's a necessary officer safety issue. Well, let's say it's an unlawful order. Just give me benefit of the doubt here. It's an unlawful order. A person does not actually have to comply with an unlawful order, right? Because they can stand up to it and say, look, you're not correct. This is my freedom of speech. However, what people are not allowed to do is fight back when police go hands-on. So even if the cop is wrong, right, and the cop goes hands-on, people do not have a right to resist an unlawful detention or an unlawful arrest. What the courts want people to do in those situations where they disagree with police action is to bring it to court, potentially sue the officer, right, and win if the person's right, but not to resist, because the problem is that physical resistance is going to lead to injuries, death, and so forth. Usually not the cop, it's going to be the suspect, because the cops have the overwhelming amount of force usually. All right, so let me see if that answers the question on YouTube. Okay, looks like that did. All right. All right, guys. Hey, yeah, Rick, they wrote back on YouTube. They're good. All right, guys. Hey, let's see. Robert says, okay, I got a question for you, but it's regarding the report writing class that I do. Not abandonment. That's fine. Rick, here's my email. Okay. Here's my email address, Christopher. No, not Christopher, Robert. Okay. Now, another question from YouTube, and let's answer this one. If I'm open carrying, does the officer have the right to take my lawfully carried firearm? Okay. The answer is if open carry is legal in your state, and you've not done anything wrong, obviously the cop would need a reason to detain you and to disarm you. However, if a cop has lawfully detained you for whatever, jaywalking, speeding, trespass, whatever it is, and they are contacting you, generally speaking, the answer is yes, they have the right to disarm a person who's lawfully possessing a firearm, because the general rule here is armed is dangerous. You need armed and dangerous. I'm going to give you a case here in a second. So and under Terry versus Ohio, you need armed and dangerous, right? So dangerous doesn't necessarily mean armed, right? But armed is dangerous. That's the logic there, right? So let me just gonna give you. Hold on one second. I'm gonna give you a case on this. Oh, I gotta put it into YouTube. Hold on. I got you. Here it is. Here's a case where the court says inconsequential that the person was carrying lawfully. Here, there's that. And let me put on YouTube. Oops. We gotta do this. We gotta do this in chunks here. Hold on, because it doesn't allow too much that much text in YouTube. I'm just gonna give you the case. Unfortunately, YouTube does not give me a lot of space to write this stuff down, but here's the case. All right, guys. I think that's good enough for today, right, Rick? Let's enjoy our Fridays, guys. Thank you, guys. Hopefully, we'll see you next week for the next week's webinar. All right. I'll also be speaking at ILETA. So if you guys are going to be at ILETA conference next week, I will be there. That's in St. Louis. I'll be one of the speakers there. So hopefully, if you guys are there, I will see you. All right. Thanks, Gerald. I appreciate it. God bless all you guys. Please, 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 before you leave, do the subscribe to the YouTube channel. That makes us very happy. We're trying to build that up to be a great place for cops to get information. All right. All right. See you.